Good morning, DNR yoga folks. It is early May. I love that word, May. I know some people who are named May West, but I think that's M-A-E. I love the word April. I know some people named April, but welcome to early May. Discover and recover yoga at this time as we are waiting for spring to spring here in the Midwest. I'm delighted you guys are here. And I just wanted to kind of go over just a quick review of props, of some of the tools of the trade that take place over time, not particularly today, but as this process continues to evolve, that the use of props and tools can be really helpful for our practice. So the first one of my favorites is the strap. Ideally, it's something that does not stretch, even an old necktie, something that's relatively long. I was going to say a belt, but oftentimes we have belts that are too short, but a strap that doesn't stretch. That is an excellent tool to use. Again, we won't be using that today, but others are yoga blocks. I like these. They're a little softer. They're a little thicker. Third on the list would be a blanket. This comes in handy for creating some space, creating some alignment in the spine, sitting on it for lifting the hips. And actually another prop that I like to use is a cushion. This is a meditation cushion that is another element to help create some space, create some cushioning, and give yourself an opportunity to deepen your practice in certain ways. So glad you guys are here. Thank you for zooming in. We are beginning lying down. So find yourself to a supine position, just a fancy way to say lying on your back, arms down by the sides, just taking the right ankle towards the right corner of the mat, the left ankle towards the left corner of the mat, and just simply let go. The concept, the idea, the notion behind discover and recover yoga is part of that is discovering these times to release, these times to simply let go of that which we can no longer control. In these times, seems to be a lot of energetic shifting ongoing in our spaces. Whether that's sensed or not sensed, it's okay. There seems to be a time of this, where we're at on this journey, that things are shifting, evolving, changing, transforming. And the process of DNR yoga is to help us to become more aware of those elements where we can maybe recognize shifts in energy, recognize opportunities to be in the moment, recognize when we can simply let go. So in these moments in this supine position, it's just a fancy term for lying on our backs, just notice from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, a body scan. Perhaps there's an area in the body that needs a little extra attention, a wrist, a knee, an elbow, a shoulder, an ankle, low back, upper back. So if that's the case, I suggest kind of metaphorically or maybe figuratively sending some energy there. Perhaps maybe it is actually going to transmute to that body part to further release and further let go of any tension, any stiffness, any tightness. As you scan, crown of the head to the soles of the feet. Noticing the connection points that you have onto the mat, the back of the head, shoulder blades, portions of the spinal column. If you would like to draw the navel towards the mat and kind of release some of that curvature to the low back, you'll get a little bit of an ab work. Maybe just do that for a few breaths, but if you'd like, that's an opportunity to get more of the spine onto the mat. And then when you're finished with that, just simply release and bring the curve back. Triceps, back of the forearms, portions of the forearms, back of the hands if the palms are up. Those are connected to the mat. Back of the hands, maybe you have the palms down. That's a little more grounding of energy. Some students have the palms up, a little more receiving of energy. Certainly the glutes connected to the surface, perhaps portions of your hamstring, calves connected, and the Achilles tendon, back of the heels. So those connection points keep us grounded in this posture. And then, friends, I suggest you start to slowly bring some intentional in-breaths through the nose. Let not only the chest expand, but also the belly, and simply let the exhale go through the mouth. Everybody's muted. If you'd like to have a little sigh, a little sound, I've got some students that like to flutter the lips on the exhale. Really using that exhale as a therapeutic tool. I'm a big fan of the exhale. It is that opportunity to release that which no longer serves, as we discover perhaps elements of our characteristics, our personality traits, envy, procrastination, sloth, anger, worry, fear. Holy cow, the list can go on of those elements, those aspects that are no longer serving our higher good. The exhale can be that wonderful therapeutic way to release, to let go of that which no longer serves. So a couple more rounds of that full, rich, and deep diaphragmatic breath cycle. All right, friends, I'm going to suggest on your next inhale, let's reach the arms overhead. Some will point the toes, some will flex the feet, and we'll have elongation. This is that wonderful opportunity in the yoga practice. We introduce what's called Ujjayi breath. It's just a fancy term for breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. There's some rationale to that. So we use the mucous membranes in the nostril hairs to perhaps be that first defense, that first line of defense through some of the toxins, some of the allergens, some of the pathogens that are in the air molecules that we're breathing. We don't notice them. Obviously, they're microscopic, but those nostril hairs and that mucous membrane through nostril breathing can help be that first defense, that first line of defense. So inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose, you feel that elongation, you might feel the release on the exhale. Now here we go. Inhale to lengthen just a smidge more, but as you exhale, gently draw the knees into the chest. That's going to be our first opportunity to find our bind. I would suggest some will do it kind of tightly, others will do it relatively lightly, so your choice. For me, with my tight hips, I generally begin with the shoulder blades and the back of the head off the mat, but eventually the shoulder blades and the back of the head return to the surface. A little side-to-side rock might feel kind of good. Just a little massage to the spine. A little movement side to side. Option number two, I've got some students that like to rock front to back. If that's the case, I would just suggest you draw the chin towards the chest, build some momentum as you just find that rock and roll front to back. If that doesn't serve you, stay side to side. Eventually, yes, we return to that neutral spine. Arms come out like wings as the knees float to the right, the gaze is left. So an easy spinal twist. Knees will float to the right, the gaze is to the left, and we're just going to release in this spinal twist. Noticing maybe left shoulder blade stays nicely connected, nicely glued to the mat. If there's a little bit of a lift, see if we can be intentional about noticing where the left shoulder blade lands. Allow that right hip, right thigh, left leg, and right leg just to stay heavy. As it letting gravity do the work as the legs just release to the surface. Now, please, on an in-breath, let's come back to center. I'm going to suggest you rebound. Most people will grab shins. I've got a few students that like to wrap the fingertips around the knees. I've got a few that grab the hamstrings. So options as you find that bind again. If you feel like the chin's lifting towards the ceiling, just slightly draw the chin towards the chest and let the back of the head return to the surface. Once again, the arms release out like wings, knees to the left, gaze is right. Observing maybe right shoulder blade, maybe the gaze is steady over the right elbow, right fingertips, legs to the left, just let gravity just do its work, just sinking thighs towards the floor. Big breath in, even though I think about nostril breathing, I do that regularly, but occasionally returning to that diaphragmatic breath cycle. All right, now, DNR folks, let's come back to center, where once again we rebind. Find that hug, find that tug. All right, option. You have a number of ways you can just simply rock and roll your way up to seated. Actually, we're going to rock and roll our way up to tabletop. Or just simply come out to the side, draw the knees underneath the hips, let the wrists land underneath the shoulders, setting up on all fours. Once there, inhaling for cow, please. The navel dips low. We're going to see if we can open up through the collarbones, draw the heart forward. Nice. And the exhale, we're going to lower the chin towards the chest, expand through the mid back and upper back count. Inhale, the navel dips low, the gaze goes up. Heart expands, exhale, the chin tucks in the background. So I'll let you go a few rounds of this classic cat-cow. I would say probably 90% of the sessions I've been a student in or I've been an instructor in for the last 15 years has included cat-cow. We had this opportunity to warm the spine up. And that spinal twist, now we just get to undulate and articulate the spine. We'll keep going for 3. Inhaling for cow, exhale for cat for 2. And eventually, we return to neutral. Return to the neutral spine. The option now is to extend this right leg to the back of the mat. Foot is flexed. So I've got my toes pointing towards the mat, the heel towards the ceiling. I'm going to extend, if it's available, left arm to the front of the mat. Option is to keep the left arm and left wrist and left shoulder, both hands going glued to the surface. Otherwise, we have this spinal extension. Okay, as we build that connection, there may be a little wobbling, that's okay. On an inhale, I'm going to slightly lift the left arm and the right leg. On an inhale, a little bend, and then exhale, come back to neutral. Inhale, there's a little lift, left arm and right leg. Exhale, back to neutral. Let's go 2 more times. Inhale, we expand. Exhale to neutral. Inhale, we lift. Exhale, back to neutral. We'll hold this for 3. Let's breathing into that for 2. Now on 1, left hand and right knee back to the mat. Okay, as my practice has evolved and I find opportunities during a session to pause, I'm a little shimmier. So maybe introducing a little wag of the tail, maybe a little release to the shoulders. Now it's the left leg, same thing on the side. Left leg is turned to the back of the mat, foot is flexing. If it's available, right arm comes forward. Right arm by right ear. Otherwise, you can just do this with the left leg, with the right wrist and right shoulder staying aligned. Otherwise, we find spinal extension. Inhale, right arm lifts, left leg as well. Exhale, back down. Inhale is a little lift. Exhale to parallel. 2 more times. Inhale, you find a rise. Exhale to release. Last time. Inhale, a little lift. Beautiful. Exhale back to this spinal balance. We'll hold here for 3. I've got a little bit of a core engagement. That navel's drawn towards the spine. I'm really energetically pressing through that left heel. Right fingertips to the front for 2. Nice. Now on 1, back to table, please. From here, you're probably familiar with child's pose. The big toes to touch. I'm going to suggest the knees draw out towards the edge of the mat. Simultaneously, walk the hips back towards the heels while you take your hands forward and just let the forehead melt to the mat. Child's pose. So, first opportunity to release in this totally restorative posture of child's pose, Balasana. Yeah. Please, you can now let the palms turn up. So I've got the back of the hands connected to the surface of the mat. A little internal rotation of the forearms. All right, let's go ahead and bring the palms back to the mat. As you inhale, let's restack shoulders above the wrists. And as you exhale, let's tuck the toes and lift the hips, our first downward dog. Hands at shoulder distance, feet about hip distance. And I'm going to start to bend one knee and then the other. That's going to be a little tail wagging. I'm going to really spread the fingers wide. Get myself nicely nestled into this downward dog. And then eventually we find some stillness. I'll call it a little static downward dog. From this position, inhale way up onto the tiptoes.
But as you exhale, release the heels back to the floor. Let's go 3 more times. Inhale, way up onto the balls of feet. Exhale, heels lower. 2 more. Inhale, we lift. Exhale, we lower. Last time. Inhale, heels lift. And then as they exhale, let them lower and simply slowly walk the hands backwards towards the back of the mat in our standing forward fold. A baby bend to the knees, perhaps. I've got some issues with my low back, so I purposely have a slight bend to my knees as I hang out upside down. Blood to the brain, not a bad thing. Maybe creating some spontaneity, some creativity as this day unfolds. Some will sway, some will stay completely still. Yogi's choice. Eventually, let's glue our palms to the shins. As you inhale, purposely draw the crown of the head towards the front of the mat. And then exhale, fold it back in. Let's go one more time. Palms to shins. There's that lovely elongation. It's almost like the body's forming in number 7. Exhale, we surrender to the fold, please. Arms come out like wings. Reverse swan dive will take us to standing. Back of the mat, palms meet, and then draw the hands to the heart center. Beautiful. So find yourselves at heart space, back of the mat, little chance to come back into intention, a purpose, the idea that we discover things that are, that really don't work. Let's add to some of what we, in the recovery world, so after 30 years on this path of discovery, alcohol-free, and moving through this discovery and recovery process, I've learned that, yes, these character defects, some of them stick with me. They're almost like a good friend, a best friend, and they just stay riding shotgun with me over time, even though I think I've released some of them, but every once in a while, they creep back in. And I'm suggesting and hoping that through this process of recovery, while we move, while we meditate, while we become more mindful in our spaces and on this walk, that those characteristics begin to release. Now, please interlace those fingers. And as you exhale, press interlace palms towards the front of the mat. Draw the chin towards the chest. Nice rounding through the upper back. Chin is towards the chest, probably staring right down between the big toes. Now, inhale those interlace palms towards the ceiling, please. And as you exhale, let's tip it to the right. Interlace palms lead the way. I'm opening up that left side body. Now, the in-breath will bring you back to center. Exhale, tip it to the left. Draw the right hip open, beautiful, back to center. One more time, let's tip it to the right. I'm pressing through those interlaced palms. Hello, back to center. Last time, tip it to the left. Expanding, open to the possibilities, back to center. Now please release the hands out and down, mountain pose, back of the mat. Thinking about that posture, mountain pose, as last couple of weeks in Discover and Recovery Yoga, we'll be talking about the power of the mountain pose, just the power, the majesty, the strength, the resilience of mountains. Whether in your mind's eye, you've got a picture of the Smoky Mountains, maybe the Rockies, snow-covered, maybe the Alps, Canadian Rockies, just the brilliance, the magnificence, and even the danger that mountains bring, just in the sheer fact that, weather patterns shift. You're just heading out for a simple day hike and climbing into elevation, and you have to be prepared. There has to be the right preparation, even for just that day hike. You never know the unpredictability that happens with the mountains. You maybe suggest the same thing happens on this path, this thing we call life. Inhale, please sweep the arms wide and high. There may be a slight little baby back bend as you open up that chest, shine that beautiful heart. Now, please, as you exhale, swan dive, take your time, flat back, forward fold. Now, perhaps peace fingers to mat or palms to shins. Once again, draw the crown of the head to the front of the mat, and then fold it back in. I call it the surrender posture. We're just going to surrender. If there is availability to bind, some will grab the calves, that's a bind. Some will maybe grab the Achilles tendon. I've got some students that wrap the peace fingers around the big toes. I've got a few students that place the hands, palms up, underneath the feet. So as we hang here, let go. Let any residual tension, any unnecessary stiffness, tightness, let it slide off the shoulder heads, off the crown of the head. Opportunity once again to introduce a full, rich, and deep diaphragmatic breath in. And see what happens on the exhale. Anybody please release it. Let the fingers do the walking, downward dog. So we're just going to stroll to the top of the mat, downward dog. Beautiful, guys. Opportunity, just a suggestion, want to remind, tabletop child's pose is always available. All right, from this downward dog, please, right leg will lift. It may lift an inch, it may go a little high. Doesn't matter. 3 limb. As you exhale, please, friends, I'm going to bring that right foot between the thumbs as best I can. Right foot lands between the thumbs. We're in this low lunge. Opportunity now, please, is to lower the left knee, flatten that left foot. Draw the arms forward, please, and we'll lift up. So we'll find a supported low lunge. Right foot is forward, left foot is back. Biceps are by the ears. Slowly interlacing those hands behind the head. Elbows draw out wide. I'm going to press my head into my hands and find a little baby back bend. So it's opening up the chest, opening up the heart. Opportunity to think about squeezing inner right thigh towards inner left thigh, trying to find some stability there as we hold for 3. Let's breathe into that for 2. Now on 1, gently release the body and let's frame, coming down to frame that right foot. Left hand can stay to the instep of the right foot and the right arm towards the ceiling. We'll have this little supported revolved crescent. Think about right arm at 12 o'clock, left arm at 6 o'clock. We'll hold for 3. Breathing into that for 2. Now on 1, right hand comes down. This, I can tell you, friends, is where a block would come in handy. So over time, maybe this right hand is placed to a block, but my right hand is going to go to the outside of my right foot, left arm lifts. We're just going to revolve the other way. Opening up that left side body, we'll hold for 3. Breathing into that for 2. Now on 1, left hand comes down. Left toes curl under. Left knee lifts, and just simply bring this right foot back, downward dog. So as we revisit these poses, we do the revisiting over time, on purpose, muscle memory. Yes, it's a process. It's a journey with 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So returning to some of the poses repeatedly. All right, here we go, friends. Inhale, left leg lifts, please. 3 limb. Yep. And then you get to, on the exhale, I'm bringing that left foot as best I can to the top of the mat. Low lunge. Eventually, please lower the right knee, flatten that right foot. Draw the arms up and forward. So we've got this opportunity to draw right foot. I like to press the top of my right foot to the mat. It gives me a little more area, a little more base. Now please interlace the hands behind the head. Elbows are drawn out wide, heart lifts. Yes, it's like not hands in the head, but head in the hands. Elbows can draw out perhaps a bit wider. You can maybe feel that into low upper back between the shoulder blades. We'll hold for 3. You guys, nice breathing into that for 2. Now please release that bind as you frame that left foot. Right hand stays to the instep left foot, left arm lifts. Beautiful opening along that left side body, hold. We'll hold for 3. Breathing into that for 2. Now let's release left hand down, right arm lifts. Same thing, other side. Here we go for 3. Nice, almost there for 2. All right, right hand comes down. Right toes tuck under. Right knee lifts. Gently bring this left foot back, downward dog. Ooh, yeah. Another opportunity to revisit this, maybe a little wag of the tail, a little shimmy of the shoulders. Now please, inhale way up onto the tiptoes, but as you exhale, let's come down to tabletop. So you're lifting up onto the tiptoes, and as I exhale, I'm just gonna make that slow journey back to hands and knees, untucking the toes, revisiting child's pose. Yeah. I have this thought, this notion's been coming up this week that it's this idea that that which we seek already lies within. So as I'm trudging this road of happy destiny, picking up that phrase from the literature from Alcoholics Anonymous, trudging the road of happy destiny,
I often find myself seeking outside of my being for contentment, peace of mind, happiness, connection, hope, when the reality is those elements, that which I seek externally lies within. All right, friends, on an inhale, let's come back up to table. All is well from hands and knees. Option now is to take the right wrist, right hand to the center of the mat. I'm going to align that right knee right in alignment with that right wrist as I draw this left foot back. Hopefully right wrist and right shoulder are aligned. I'm going to take the left arm towards the ceiling. So classic, nicely supported side angle, or side plank, I should say. Option now is to start to draw that left arm forward. So it's just a windmill action, just gently flowing in that circular motion for 3. Here we go for 2. Nice. Now on 1, reverse it, take it the other way. Hello, left shoulder. Beautiful. Here's 3, 2. Now on this last one, let's let that little momentum press into that right palm, and we're going to lift up. I'm going to slide the left hand down the left leg. I'm going to let that right arm bisect that right ear. We got a big opening along that right side body. Maybe feeling the obliques follow ground engaged on the left as we hold here. You like to move the head a bit? Yes or no? Hello, higher energy centers in the head and the neck. All right, gently, let's return back to table. Back to hands and knees. I'm just going to switch to the other side of the mat. Now it's the left wrist to the middle. Left knee is in line with the left wrist. Right leg is back. Right arm is to the sky. Okay. Building this base, glance down. Hopefully left wrist is right underneath left shoulder. Now begin that right arm rotation. You're sweeping to the front first or backwards. Yeah. That's it. Nice. Here we are for 3. Nice windmill action for 2. Now please reverse it. Take it the other way. Oh, there's a nice pop into my shoulder. Here's 3. At your own pace. Slow and steady for 2. All right, on this last revolution, let's go ahead and let the momentum press into that left palm. Yeah, the right hand does what it does. Left arm is bisecting left ear. Big motion. Big bend. Woo. Big release. Again, maybe a little move in the head, yes or no. Hello, higher energy centers. We'll hold here for 3. Breathing into that for 2. Now with control, let's cartwheel everything back to table. Back to table. All is well. Retuck the toes, relift the hips. We're revisiting downward dog. I love that prefix, RE. We reconnect, we reevaluate, we rejuvenate, we realign, we rehab, we readjust. All right, friends, please, on an inhale, we're coming up onto the tiptoes. Once again, let's bend both knees. Let's look between the thumbs. Walk it to the top of the mat, standing forward fold. Opportunity to revisit this. Release the hands. You can bind opposite hand to opposite elbow. You can have a little sway. But eventually, any bind you have, let's just gently release it. The suggestion is to bend the knees a little deeper. Right forearm behind right thigh. Left forearm behind left thigh. You might get opposite hand to opposite elbow. You might get opposite hand to opposite forearm. You might get opposite hand to opposite wrist. Big breath in, big breath out. Right, we'll hold for 3. Breathing steady into that for 2. Nice. Now, please release the bind. Let's start to roll, ragdoll our way up to standing. Stacking one vertebra on top of the other. Oh, yeah. Let's find extended mountain pose. Take the arms by the ears, fingertips towards the sky, extended mountain pose, and eventually hands to the heart space. That which we seek already lies within. So at the heart center, one of my favorite mantras, from the heart space emanates. What pours forth from the heart center is kindness, compassion, empathy, tolerance, holy cow, patience, forgiveness, but ultimately love emanating and pouring forth from the heart center. Now, please, friends, we'll just let the hands come down by the sides. Reconnect with mountain, Tadasana, the majesty, the brilliance, the energy, the strength, the resilience, the unpredictability of mountains. If you like, you can lift the toes. I've got some students that can spread their toes really wide, almost like fingers. Eventually, toe pads make their way back to the surface. I'm going to go ahead and shift the weight to this right leg. The left leg is lifting. Arms come by the ears. So just a chance to balance in this simple position. Option is to close the eyes or gaze to the ceiling, see what happens in the central nervous system as we make that transition with the gaze, the drishti, as we call it in yoga. Otherwise, option is to just stare straight ahead. If we're building that balance into that right foot, it's all as well as we hold for 3. Love the concept of balance physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually for 2. Now, please, on 1, just simply lower. Everything comes back to Tadasana. Everything comes back to mountain. Realign. Got a dear friend of mine talks about the forward head tilt. The forward head tilt. So if you can imagine, maybe drawing that almost like a turtle. It's head into the shell. We're drawing that front of the throat towards the back of the neck and finding that better alignment. So it may feel like your chest is popping out a little bit. We're finding that from the devices and from just over time for a long time now, decades and decades, that forward head tilts become more prominent. We're finding this alignment. Weight to that left foot, right leg lifts. You're just bringing that right leg as comfortably as high as possible. Sweeping the arms wide and high. If you like to cup the palms as if we're drawing energy up from the base, from Mother Earth, to help us build this balance. Using the gaze of the drishti, closing the eyes. So simple, but so profound in the idea of creating balance. For so long, my life, and as I sought to fill that hole with alcohol, was so out of balance, out of whack. So coming into these postures, coming into the program of recovery, and then discovering this thing called yoga was so key. As we hold for 4, steady breath into that for 3, almost there for 2. Now here we go. Let's release everything back down. Whatever the reset is, for me, it's kind of a little shimmy of the hips, a little shoulder softening, soften through the throat and the jaw. We oftentimes, for some of us, I know for myself, I get a little tight through the throat and the jaw. But I've learned over time, as I can soften through the throat and the jaw, I can find that voice of reason, that voice of understanding, that voice of compassion. All right, once again, let's sweep the arms wide and high. Maybe a little tiny back bend. That's it. And then here we go. Swan dive, flat back, forward fold. Just let it go. To surrender to the fold. Peace fingers matter, palms to shins, half lift. Exhale, please, back to the surrender fold. All right, I'm going to bend the knees a little deeper, bring fingertips or palms to mat, walk the feet back, tabletop. Okay, the transition, no fancy transition here. I've got some students that cross the ankles and draw the hips back as the legs come forward. I'm going to go ahead and simply lower onto my right hip or my left hip. Together, we'll just let the legs swing around to the front. We're finding our way to seated, our seated postures. Making our way to the mat. Legs out front. I'm going to see if I can keep the core lifted, or at least the crown of the head lifted. I want to kind of dump into this. So yoga reminds me to find that posture of lengthening, or that posture of dignity as the hands come to the heart space. A little check-in at the heart center. A reminder of what emanates, what pours forth from the heart space. Now let's inhale, sweep the arms wide and high. We've done it standing. Now on the exhale, we'll just do it seated, forward fold. Classic, yeah. I have a slight bend to the knees because of what was diagnosed 11 years ago as a herniated disc. My sacrum 1 and lumbar, sacrum 5 and lumbar 1, S5, L1, L1 and S5 totally blew out. It was first deemed a partial herniation and then came into a full-blown herniation.
The story goes from a recovery perspective, surgery was an option indicated by a couple of clinicians. I had other people in the midst who said, continue this yoga process. It took about 6 or 7 weeks, but over time, the sciatica and the pain in the low back absolutely, unequivocally went away and has been gone for 11 years. Now, please walk hands up the outstretched legs. Sitting up tall, I'm going to suggest we bring the soles of the feet together, butterfly pose. Some will grab the shins, some will grab the ankles, maybe peace fingers wrap around the big toes. You can grab the tops of the feet. We'll lift and lengthen. And the exhale, just a gentle opportunity to fold forward. Wherever that takes you, wherever that journey takes you, you can use the elbows to kind of coax those knees out a little wider. All right, as we just slowly return to that perpendicular spine, simultaneously draw the knees towards the ceiling, soles of feet to the mat. All right, we're going to have bent knees, ankles, knees, and hips in alignment. Make sure you've got room behind you. Make sure you've got room behind you. With the bent knees, the soles of feet to the mat, let's just slowly roll down the spine, a little core work. My feet want to lift off the mat, but I'm going to see if I can keep the feet grounded as we just make that transition, slowly lowering down. There may be a spot where you kind of speed up. Shoulder blades in the back of the head find their way to the surface. Please start to draw those heels closer to the glutes. So we're on our backs, knees are bent, soles of feet to the mat, hands down by the sides of the body. Inhale, lift the hips, bridge pose number 1. So option is to maybe walk those heels a little closer to the glutes. Some students like to start to squeeze the shoulder blades together because it enables them to bind the hands underneath the bum. That's an option. Otherwise, the hands just simply stay down by the sides of the body. You might feel like on an inhale, the chest comes a little closer to the chin as we hold here. There's some will feel a stretch to the quadriceps, top of the thighs. Hold for 3. Breathing into that for 2. Now gently on 1, let's release. If you have the bind, let the hands come out to the sides. Spine comes back to the mat. And I'm going to suggest we give the knees a little windshield wipering, a little motion from side to side. All right, as you come back to center, realign, readjust, make sure there's that key, this alignment of hips, knees, and ankles. Inhale, we lift the hips. Again, maybe a squeezing of the shoulder blades, interlace the hands at the low back, maybe towards the bum. Option is to come up onto the tiptoes. Working the calves from the balls of feet. You might walk the balls of feet a little closer to the glutes. Just observe that. Then you get an inhale, maybe lifts the hips a little higher, chest comes a little closer to the chin as we hold for 3. A little mid back and low back, breathing into that for 2. All right, please on 1, let's release everything back to the mat. Take your time, we lower down. And again, a little movement of the knees side to side. Ooh. All right, as we come back to center, 3rd and final bridge. Start to lift the hips, bind or no bind. Walk the heels a little closer to the glutes, up onto the tiptoes if you so feel supported that way. Support is key. I might stay on the ball of my left foot as I let this right leg go towards the sky. And it may go parallel to the left thigh. It may be perpendicular to the mat. You might give that right ankle as it's lifted some motion. You have the opportunity to squeeze that left butt cheek as we hold for 3. Breathing into that for 2. Now I'm going to slowly bring the ball of that right foot to the floor. Reset, left leg goes high. So I'm on the ball of the right foot, left leg is lifted, maybe the left leg is in alignment with that right thigh. Hello, left ankle. Hello, right butt cheek. So simultaneously, lots going on here as we go for 4. Steady into that for 3. Beautiful, almost there for 2. Now rebend that left knee, land back on the ball of the left foot, and let's let go. Suggestion is to heel toe those feet out towards the edges of the mat, and let's return to that movement of the knees from side to side.
Beautiful, guys. As you come back to center, heel toe those feet back into about hip distance. I'm going to start to draw my knees towards my chest, and I'm going to find happy baby pose. This will be our closing posture. Some will grab the shins, some will grab the ankles, some may wrap the peace fingers around the big toes, maybe grab the outer blade of the feet. For me to do so, I have to lift my shoulder blades in the back of the head off of the mat, but eventually shoulder blades in the back of the head make their way down to the mat. I might have a little bit of a thigh to thigh rock, a little side to side rock. I'm attempting to draw thighs low, soles of feet high. If you have a 6 or 7 or 8 month old baby in your midst, this is their discovery. Oh, these are my feet. So imagine that discovery is happening from the time we were born. As soon as we came out of the womb, we're continuing to discover. All right, as you come to neutral, opportunities to slowly release that bind, soles of feet find the way to the mat. For some, it may feel comfortable and more comfortable to keep the knees bent. Another option is to butterfly pose the legs, soles of feet connect. A third variation is to draw the right ankle towards the right corner mat, the left ankle toward the left corner mat, and that's where we end up for rest. Savasana, our resting posture for these few moments. As we began, we end. If there is a little shimmy into the shoulders or the hips as you nestle into this resting posture known as Savasana. I like to think about trying to find that sweet spot in Savasana, which for me and for others, I would recommend a full, rich, and deep diaphragmatic breath in. And then that beautiful exhale brings you to that rest, brings you to that moment of ease. So the work is done. Here's the reward to simply relax. This pose, loosely translated in English, is corpse pose. I heard the developer of mindfulness-based stress reduction, John Kabat-Zinn, suggests corpse pose as an idea that we die to the past. We let go of the past in corpse pose. We relinquish and release any control of tomorrow, future. We are in this moment. Hence, his work on bringing mindfulness and meditation and present-mindedness to millions of people with his work. A few more moments, please. Let the body melt into the mat. Just find that balance, that equilibrium, equanimity between heaviness and lightness. If you can release any portions of the body more into the mat, releasing any residual tension. Just let it go. Okay, here we go, DNR yoga. I'm going to suggest the right hand comes to the heart center and the left hand on top of the right hand. So we'll nestle here in this hugely important energy center, the heart chakra, the heart center. Right hand to the heart space, left hand on top of the right hand. I can say unequivocally over time, it took me a while to find this hand placement. It was a little too vulnerable. I could get my right hand to my heart, but my left hand on top of the right hand, it took me a while to find this placement. And I'm going to suggest this as a place to maybe land as you're going to have a conversation with a loved one, a colleague, a neighbor. If it's comfortable, right hand to the heart center, left hand on top of the right hand to the recipient of your message. Consciously or unconsciously, it'll signal something heartfelt, something meaningful is about to be shared in this placement. Now, from here, I'd like you to reintroduce the diaphragmatic breath cycle. The heart and chest will lift on the in-breath. Don't forget about the belly, and simply on the exhale, please release. Let it go through the mouth. A couple more times. Full, rich, and deep on the in-breath. Expansion through the heart and the chest. Exhale is that letting go. One more time, big breath in. On this exhale, the suggestion is to release the hands down by the sides of the body. Going to the other end of the body with the toes wiggling, the ankles rotating. If the legs have been straight, you can bend them. To the crown of the head, to the head, you can maybe move it from side to side. Eventually, the suggestion is to draw the knees into the chest. That's our last bind. Yeah. So you can do this at whatever level of intensity. I'm going to make this bind pretty tight. As I draw those thighs into the core. Now you've got an option for some students to float onto either the right side or left side and finding a little fetal position. If that's part of your practice, that's an opportunity to find a little renewal posture. Others simply choose to stay on their back. So options, choices. Opportunity to reconnect with your purpose for this practice, your intention. Now, if you have floated to one side of the body, whatever hand is to the mat, just simply press into it and lift up. If you are staying on your back, just simply roll your way up to a seated posture, which we really didn't do today. So for the seated postures, it can be cross-legged and what we call sukhasana. If it feels more comfortable to let the legs come out straight, that's an option. Remembering again, a prop in the form of a rolled up blanket, a folded up blanket can be a wonderful tool, a wonderful aid to let that bum sit on the blanket, lifting the hips slightly, lowering the heels. Butterfly pose, yet another version, another variation. And we restore here in these moments. Perhaps the eyes close, facial muscles soften, the throat, the jaw, the shoulders are released. With the conclusion of this version of Discover and Recover Yoga, deep thanks for joining. As this journey continues, the journey of 1,000 miles with a single step starts to unfold. We draw the hands to the heart space, a little check-in, a little tap-in, a reminder, a gentle reminder of what emanates from the heart space. In closing in that traditional fashion, please know the divine light, the teacher, and the spirit that dwells within me, indeed with a bunch of gratitude, and hopefully showing up in this virtual format authentically and humbly with you guys, bows to the divine light, to the teacher, and to the spirit that dwells within each of you all. Namaste. Thank you all. Blessings. Be well. Drink lots of water. See you next week.